What's up? So, uh, Backlash last night. um, as it seems to always kind of happen, especially after a pay per view or a PLE, whatever you want to call it. Um, my TikTok's full of people talking about it, and saw this one that said you can't expect Mania style PLEs at every PLE. It's just not going to happen. And that's true, but I didn't have Mania style PLEs. Hell, most of the Mania matches I thought were just kind of subpar anyway. Best match of the entire night, well, best match of either night was anything that was a triple threat. And if you go back to Mania weekend, go back to Mania, and I'm talking SmackDown, Mania, Raw, that whole 4 day weekend. You go back to there, and what you have is every women's title, if it was on the line, was retained. You had two women's titles that were not on the card, and every men's title that was on the line changed hands. Then on Backlash, which I think the next pay-per-view PLE um after Mania needs to kind of set some statements. You know, it's you're coming out of a real hot weekend, so you got to kind of continue that going. And it floundered. I mean, you came out of the gate with a really good match. The fatal four way between, what was it, McIntyre, Priest, Fatu, and LA Knight. Yeah, and it was a really good match. Um, I'm kind of over the Priest McIntyre because this has been going on for over a year. Uh, Drew needs to move away from him now. And apparently that South of Heaven that he took off the end um, cracked his head on the concrete, so he's probably going to be out a little bit. So that's two interactions that they've had recently to where something's gone wrong and Drew's gotten hurt. So let's move Drew away from Priest, or someone needs to have a talk with Priest because he's getting his lockup partners hurt, and that's got to stop. The Knight and Fatu thing, you got to get LA Knight away from the U.S. title. Um, you just have to. Um, I have always looked at them as there's a title hierarchy. You have the U.S. title, the IC title, and then the heavyweight title. And each one of them is to represent how you're growing and participating. Usually, the U.S. title is you have the crowd getting behind you, and they want to see you pushed. Well, let's put a title in your hand and see what happens. Can you maintain and then add on to? And then that brings to the IC title and maintain and add on to, and that brings to the heavyweight title. Um, but you have to get to a certain point to where you start letting other stories happen. Um, the the fact that Jacob walked out alone, I went, well, Solo's getting involved at some point in time. That's all there is to it. That's how it's going to happen. And I was right. I didn't expect him to bring someone else, but now I'm going, okay, you've been kind of playing with this whole they're going to split apart for about 4 months now. Tomorrow's Raw. Let's do it. You've had him rip the mic out of his hand. You've had him talked to Nick Aldis, and Nick Aldis like, no, you're the one who's ruining it for him. And so you've had all these things that are building. Okay, now let's put the foot down and go with it. You know, Sikoa's pretty much got his Jacob 2.0. So now is the time you start pushing this, because this whole we're going to slowly break up thing is tiresome after about 3 months, and it's time. It's time to go on to the next portion of it. Just like with Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, you have to get them apart. You have to. It's beyond done. Let it happen. Start pushing Theory, and I don't know. Waller can team up with Cross to do some shit, because Cross is coming up, and I can't wait for it, because he's been coming up for a little while, and he's like, I got things that I can do, but you have to let me do them. And it was just kind of like, yeah, when we get time kind of thing. But anyway, you got to get Knight away from that belt. Fatu is starting to build, so let him build, but get him away from Sikoa. If you're going to have him be more of like a lone werewolf, which is where you should be trying to push that, now is the time where you actually have him shift gears. And then you can have that little thing build for a while, and that's how he does well in retaining the U.S. title. And if that means Sikoa has some relevancy, fine. But for the most part, it's almost dragging on too long, and nothing new is happening until Backlash. And then you had Lyra and Becky was, I think, the next good match. But I always kind of try to look at things, especially now, of going, okay, what are you going to do next now? Because Bayley was a hero to Lyra. She beat her, and Bayley's out. Becky was a hero to her. She teamed with Becky, did not hold the titles for more than 24 hours, lost them, got into an altercation, had a match, still held the title. So now what are you going to do to push her? Because you haven't really done shit to push her at all. And the thing with Becky was, okay, you could have had this go. Someone else could have come in and interfered. Like Bayley coming in and interfering would have been, I think, a good thing, because if Becky took Bayley out, then let Bayley come in and interfere, and now you can still have Lyra and Becky go at it to elevate them both, and then, you know, Lyra retains, then that title now has something to it, and then you can pull in more women to go after the title. At that point, you know, it could elevate up to the importance of a Rhea Ripley title, because she hasn't held it. Have her go after it. And speaking of haven't held it, I think that was the only reason why McIntyre was in the U.S. title match, because he wanted to be a Grand Slam champion, and pretty much their storyline took him out of the title run. So, like, what are we doing? The Gunther McAfee, I think, was probably... No. The Dom Penta, I think, was probably... Like, the Dom Penta, Becky, Lyra match could have flipped. But my thing is, you had Penta come into the WWE back in January, and he won every match he was in going into February. And now he's lost every single match he's had except one since February. So what are you doing? Is he just a flashy jobber now? Because he hasn't done anything of relevance since he was here, with the exception of still going through the number one contenders match for the IC title. But You're burying the guy. So at this point, you almost have to kind of have him go for the U.S. title instead, because he needs to be built back up. Like I said, he's lost every single match, every last damn one of them. And it's just really, really sad to see. It is sad to see that you had made such a big deal. It was the worst kept secret. You get him in there. He's on fire. Everybody's loving him. Everybody's doing the Cero Miedo thing. And he loses. And he loses. And he loses. All that fire that he had coming into it all, he's losing it. And people are just going to eventually lose interest in him and just go, cool, I got to see him hit the Mexican Destroyer. So I'm happy now. And that's pretty much it. And the Penta Driver. You see those two moves, you're like, cool, I'm happy. And you don't care anymore because you're burying the guy. You can't do that because you're burying his brother too. Or you're burying them so that they have to be put together so that they can get back on their winning ways. But I think they stand fine on their own. If you're going to put them on anything, put them on the tag title for the Raw side, because the men's tag division on the Raw side is pathetic. You have the Creed brothers. You have the Judgment Day. And you have the New Day. And the War Raiders. Boring. Because the Street Profits match on Friday and then the one after Mania, so this weekend and the previous weekend were some of the best matches that have been in the tag division in quite some time. And I'm going, this is what it needs. This is what it needs. It needs some good, strong champions that do some really good matches. And I'm all about it. My thing is, how do you have all these cool ass moves, and then your big finish, Montez, is a splash? I think it's dumb. It's like you could do something better. Just you have that the electric chair. I think is one of the coolest tag team moves. It's akin to the War Raiders with their War Machine, but the War Machine's just kind of sad. It's just an elevated clothesline. But the electric chair is an elevated flipping neck breaker. I'm going, that's just awesome to watch. Why isn't that higher up your move card? And a splash is higher than it. Like, get the fuck out of here. I'm just tired of seeing splashes. Like, everybody has one. Just like everybody has a damn super kick. Yawn. And everybody's getting a spear. Like, no, Breaker has that thing on lock. Everybody else, change it, do something else. Sorry. Anyway. But then you had El Grande Americano show up and headbutt Penta. And Dom then does his 5-star frog splash and retains the title. I'm all right with that because Dom having the title just builds more heat. And what's funny is everybody just booed the hell out of Dom. And then as he slowly started getting towards the IC title, everyone started cheering him. And he still talks a lot of shit at every interview, and it's fantastic. But he's not building heat anymore. People are actually okay with it. Probably because he's always in that same character mind frame everywhere he goes, at every interview, for everything, and that's just how it is. So people are like, all right, it's not like he goes, I kind of miss hanging out with my dad and going fishing. He's like, no, screw that deadbeat. I'm like, that is it. And I made a realization with the friends that I watch with, and I said, here's the thing, and you guys may not agree, but I think Dom is literally the second coming of Eddie Guerrero right now. Because Eddie was a lifelong heel that was hated and then revered and always would sit there and have all these little nuanced things of cheating or help cheating or everything else, then would deny it. And that's exactly what Dom's doing. And that's why it's getting over, because I think other people are making that realization that they enjoy having one of those characters, but I don't think a lot of people have made the same realization that Dom is pretty much the next Eddie Guerrero. Granted, he will never be at the same level, but he always does the whole shaking thing and tries to do the three amigos and always sits there and mocks people, and he was even mocking Penta's walk and things like that. So it's like that's who this is. That's why it's starting to get over, because Dom is this generation's Eddie, and that's all there is to it. And it's great, and it's building, and that's why they gave him the IC title, because something else to just sit there and throw more heat, and that you're not thinking is bringing up a heel status, but now you're sort of bringing up a he's a bad guy but we love him status. That's great. Now the Gunther and McAfee thing was, I think, the next match down. I liked that Gunther was just messing with him, and you could hear Cole getting more and more pissed off and more irritated. He's like, just pin him already. Stop the damn match. And there's a part of me that wishes it would have gone up to the next level, because I'm going, before you fought Jay, Jimmy was cut open and you were rubbing his blood on your chest and stomach. Where was that? Like, that to me was like pinnacle, like, holy shit, Hannibal Lecter style, just bad guy. And I'm going, okay, all right, Gunther, I'm all right with this. You again, you kind of need that one person that does these despicable things. And I was wanting to see him cover, and then it looked like McAfee might not have kicked out, and then he just grabs his hair, pulls him up, and just keeps going. It should have been a slaughter. And McAfee did get in a couple of good hits, just to be kind of like, I didn't expect to win, but I'm still going to stand up. And I'm still going to have a bully status. Whenever Gunther kind of nodded his respect, I don't think it should have been that obvious. Excuse me. I think it should have been more like when Undertaker and Jeff Hardy had a match, and Undertaker just beat the shit out of him. And then as Undertaker's leaving, he's walking up the ramp. Jeff grabs the mic. His voice is cracking. He sounds like he's in utter anguish. And he's like, "You haven't broken me yet, Taker. You haven't broken me yet." And his voice is just cracking like crazy. And Undertaker just goes, "Oh, really?" Walks back down the ramp, gets ready to beat him. And he could tell this kid is just, his body's not there, but his heart is. And he just kind of went and gave a nod and walked out. That's what Gunther should have done. That's what that whole match should have been. You're recreating that thing of an ass whooping. And then Gunther's just like, "Just stay down." And he just beats the shit out of him, and just McAfee, just out of sheer stubbornness, just keeps getting back to his feet. And then Gunther eventually just pins him and slaps the shit out of him a little bit more and gets ready to leave. And McAfee's just climbing the ropes, getting back up to the top and getting ready to just be like, kind of like Cap, "I could do this all day," even though he's just beat to shit. And then Gunther just kind of goes and turns around and just keeps walking. That's how that should have went. Not this, "Oh, I tip my hat to you, sir." No. I want to say I would have liked to have had it be more of like a bloody match, but you can break a dude without breaking skin. And that match should have had something along the lines of the Taker versus Hardy, where he's like, "You haven't broken me yet." To where, their mouth is apparently what got them in trouble. So then Cole's sitting there and he's like, "Give me a mic." Cole's like, "No." He goes, "Give me a mic." He goes, "Gunther, guys like you always need someone to stand up against them." Or something like that. That match would have been elevated higher up the damn, because it's a statement match. So make a statement. And I think it was made, but I think it was made more to go, that hard edge person that was wiping his brother's blood over his body now is just tipping his hat to a commentator. And it should have been done a little bit differently to give the same effect. But yeah, Undertaker versus Hardy is how that one should have gone. And then you come to Orton and Cena. Now, the people that I watch the pay-per-views and PLEs or whatever, we all tried to look and see what ticket prices were, and there wasn't a single one out of the or lower than the triple digits. Like, you were paying $100 plus for nosebleeds. You were paying close to $200 for nosebleeds. Right around the ring was about $800 a ticket, and we just kind of went, "Fuck that." But I thought it was funny, and I had the humorous realization to where I live in St. Louis. I go drive east to Illinois to watch a PLE PPV in Illinois that is taking place in St. Louis. And it's because the tickets were too high priced. And seeing Orton and Cena should have been a better draw. And I think it was a main draw, because that would have been the only reason why I would have went, was to see Orton Cena at Orton's house. That would have been it. Beyond that, I would have been pissed, and I would have wanted my money back. Because nothing was done in this pay-per-view, PLE, that helped push many stories forward, with the exception of Jacob Fatu. The fact that Chad Gable can have this stupid luchador gimmick that is constantly costing Penta everything is getting ridiculous. And I don't know what they're doing with El Grande Americano, but I am over it, man. I'm over it. The only thing that's kind of funny about it is Cole constantly saying, "Well, Chad Gable," goes, "You don't know that's Chad Gable," and shit like that. But anyway, the Cena Orton match, I was expecting something better. When the ref got knocked out first time and Orton went for the pin, I was like, that's just confirmed. Whenever the ref goes down, whoever gets pinned is the one who wins. That's WWE law at this point. If a ref gets knocked out, the next person who gets pinned is the one who wins. And Orton was pinning Cena to the counts of like 12 and 14. Nothing. And when all the security guys came out, or all the execs, and when Nick Aldis, and they all ran to the second ref after he got knocked out. And when Nick Aldis sat there and started, no, it was Adam Pearce, started yelling at, what was it, Nick? I was one of those two. I don't remember. I think it was Nick Aldis, though. But anyway, he, when he stood up, started talking with Orton, I was like, "Here comes an RKO." And he RKO'd him and everybody else in a suit that ran down. And I said, that's your consolation prize for him losing. Like, no, no, no. I'm like, yeah, that's your consolation prize. And um, when the ending happened, the fact that it was a nut shot and a belt to the head, and then the ref that was originally knocked out comes back, does a slow 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, we all knew it was coming, but I think because it was so telegraphed and because everything was just kind of ho-hum, and maybe that goes back to Cena saying you get nothing. So even like the quality of his matches is going to be subpar because he just doesn't give a damn anymore. And I, for one, am starting to get tired of all the whining. I'm going, can you make better points? Because you're just pretty much making the same point in a different city. What I would like to see, and so far the best promo that he cut was when he was talking about how many appearances he had. And it was 35 for the year or whatever, and he was counting it down on Raw. And he just goes, that's just appearances. That's not matches. And that's when the realization started to hit in, and people going, oh shit. Oh shit. And what I would like to have happen is when he comes out and as he's starting to, or as we wait for him to call the announcer up, to call his shit right for the nth time in a row, have him point back to the screen that just said John Cena and have the counter change. That is what you need to add. Jesus. That is what you need to add at every appearance. So that way some finality gets put in there and people can legit pay attention to these are the countdowns. This is what's happening. This is what's going on. You need to be aware of this so that as he cuts his promos and things, the weight of it all sits. Put that counter on the screen. Have it on there at all times. Or whenever he points to it, have that counter change. Because whenever he was listing off all the cities, he was like, Brussels and Las Vegas, Las Vegas, Las Vegas. I'm going, and the counter was going down. That was when I was the most engaged in any of his whining. And I just kind of went, oh shit. And I'm going, he has about 3 weeks. 3 weeks worth of dates. From now until the end of the year, he has 3 weeks. And we're in month 5. You need to have that level of finality weigh on people every single time. Like what I thought would have been a fantastic way to end it and go, okay, I'm more pleased with the story they're telling with Cena now is whenever he's sitting there and he's got the mic in his hand, he goes, I don't need no music, cut my music. And this is what you get, St. Louis. This is take a good look at it. The last champ is here. And he points to the Jumbotron that they all walk through. And it just says John Cena. And then it says appearances. And then it goes from like 25 to 24. And then he drops the mic and walks off. Give everything that amount of levity. Because then every single time he shows up and you have that counter drop and he points to and has it drop as he's done cutting his promos, you elevate this to where people like me that are tired of it, you elevate it to another level. And that's what it needs. It needs to be elevated to another point to where you could say, oh shit, that was his 24th appearance. We only got 23 more. Oh shit. And then he walks out and it says 24. And once he gets introduced, he points back to the screen and a 24 changes to a 23. And then he says whatever. Someone comes out. They get into a tussle. He gets up. He stands and he points to it. And he goes from a 24 to a 23. And he just has a shit-eating grin on his face, says nothing more, and walks off. And we go, why are we not doing this? You want to make it impactful, make it impactful. Because right now it's just John Cena on repeat whiner. And that's all that it's really is. Put this in immediately. And you elevate this to a level of severity that has not been achieved since the first turn and the first appearance after the first turn. You have not achieved that level of severity yet since he was talking about the countdown after Mania, the Raw after Mania, and he was sitting there counting it all down. Put it back on there. Because when it starts getting to the teens, people go, oh, shit. And then it goes from 10 to 9. People go, oh, shit. Then when you increase the ticket sales, because you are marking all of these events and things down, people aren't going to be as pissed off to pay it because you're having those numbers show up to show just how important this is. And to let people, like, the champ is now leaving, or the champ ain't here, whatever. That's fine. But having that number severity just means it's even more pertinent. And this is, again, why I'm going, hire me for a writer. I have great ideas. And this is one that once he started having that countdown, should have been present every single time. Every single time. And you need to put it in immediately. Give him a couple weeks off. Don't have him make any appearances. He probably shouldn't have an appearance till like mid-June almost. But then have those numbers be a thing. Paul, Trips, whatever. Pay attention to this part of the video because this is what you need to do to start elevating this. Because the little merchandise and all that other kind of crap, I don't think is really sinking into most people's heads. Put that countdown timer on. And don't have it always be present just when John points to it. Because if you gave it a countdown timer, that goes against him saying, you get nothing. So he doesn't have any more flashy entrance or whatever. So you can just have John Cena gets introduced, and then it goes appearances, 25 to 24, or whatever the hell we're at now. I think we're at 23 left. But again, 3 weeks worth of appearances. And we got 7 months to go. It's going to be over, but you put that counter, I'm telling you, everything changes. And yeah, but I still say my overall score for Backlash is about a 4 out of 10. You got some work to do on some stories. Get Knight away from the U.S. title. Get Fatu away from Solo, especially now that it looks like he's got his own attack dog in Jeff Cobb. Now's the time to pull the trigger and get them away. Who do you have go after Lyra next? Is Becky not done? I think if you want to give Becky extra heat, she needs to go, you cost me a title, so I owe you a title lost. I have to think you do something along those lines. But I will say that these 15 to 20 minute matches should be squished down to like 10 to 12, how they used to be. Because here's another thing that I'll say. SmackDown's 3 hours. Raw is 3 hours. Why was Backlash 2? Why was Backlash 2? Oh, sure, you could say it started at 7 p.m. Eastern and ended at 10 p.m. Eastern. But 7 p.m. Eastern is when the pre-show begins. So then 8 p.m. Eastern is when it starts, and 10 p.m. Eastern is when it ended. So it's 2 hours. That's why it gets a 4 out of 10. You cannot have a premium live event be shorter than your weekly shows. or you have to shorten the matches, stuff more in there, make it more meaningful. But the fact that it was 2 hours, absolutely pathetic. It needs to change. It's getting dumb, and the cash cow that you have is not properly fed or milked. So that's my last thoughts on it. Yeah. Opinions. If you like what you heard or anything like that, and throw a thumbs up, throw a comment. What you thought, you want to tell me that I'm wrong about whatever, that's fine. But yeah, that's my writer's take on Backlash, and it was sad because Friday Night SmackDown was better. So yeah.